Hello and welcome back to another breaking news update. My name is Jimmy Boyd and you were watching Boyd News. I want to thank you so much for tuning in today. I've got some news coming out here for you. So we're going to be talking about Volodymyr Zelenskyy in this video. That is the president of Ukraine. So we're going to be talking about some of the statements he's been making lately. He's been in multiple interviews over the last few days. And some of these statements that he's making are pretty crazy, okay? He wants NATO to be more directly involved in this war in Ukraine. There's been lots of news coming out over the last week or so regarding the Kharkiv region. I also reported on that late last week before I took off on my vacation. And he clearly wants NATO to be more involved here, okay? They've been talking about how they've been able to hold the line in Kharkiv, but it's also been significantly difficult to hold the line over there in that region near Kharkiv. And that at any point, we've also reported this as well, that if Ukraine ever needed help fighting this war, they would simply call for NATO's backing. And we know for sure that France would be one of the top countries that would get involved in this war if need be. So, yeah, I want to talk more about Volodymyr Zelenskyy here. So he's been basically pushing for NATO to get more directly involved in this war. And he's come out saying things like he wants NATO to shoot down some of these missiles that are coming into the country, that they could use F-16s from their own bases inside of NATO territory, which Russia has warned against that and said that if you ever do that, we would target bases even in NATO countries if F-16s were to be used to fight in Ukraine coming from a NATO country, let's say Poland, for example, or maybe Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, countries that are close to Ukraine. So I want to talk some more about this and give you some more information. We also have a few videos to go over. So let's talk about this. This is on Al Jazeera. Zelenskyy pushes allies for direct involvement in Ukraine's war with Russia. Ukraine leader seeks help intercepting Russian missiles, saying situation on the battlefield is one of the most difficult since 2022 invasion. So something I want to note here too is we've been hearing a lot of that. It seems to me like things may be worse on the front line than what we're being told right now. We know that Ukraine is receiving lots of weaponry, but I still believe that the front line is not doing so well right now. We're hearing lots of reports coming out, even from the commander of Ukraine's armed forces, Oleksandr Syrsky, stating that the frontline situation has deteriorated significantly. So we know that they're not doing well right now in this war, although they are receiving lots of help from the West in terms of aid. So it says here, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelenskyy has said he is pushing partners to get more directly involved in the war by helping to intercept Russian missiles and allowing his country to use Western weapons against military equipment amassing near the border. It's a question of will, but everyone says a word that sounds the same in every language. Everyone is scared of escalation, the 46-year-old leader told the Reuters news agency in Kiev on Monday. Everyone has gotten used to the fact that Ukrainians are dying. That's not escalation for people, he said. Zelenskyy proposed that the armed forces of neighboring NATO countries could intercept incoming Russian missiles over Ukrainian territory to help Ukraine protect itself. So he's kind of talking about like what the U.S. did basically for Israel. Okay, why did the U.S. come to Israel's aid, even though Israel is not a NATO member? They are a major ally to the United States, and I believe that's why they are so vital and why the U.S. supported them when they came under attack by Iran. But no other countries are really doing this for Ukraine, okay? Ukraine's basically on their own. They are getting aid from the West, which is very helpful to them, but they're not getting help like what Israel was getting. So that's kind of what he's talking about here. Russia has fired thousands of missiles and drones at Ukraine since the start of its invasion in 2022 and launched an assault in the northeastern border region of Kharkiv on May 10th. That resulted in their biggest territorial gains in a year and a half. Russians are using 300 planes on the territory of Ukraine. We need at least 120 to 130 planes to resist in the sky. Zelenskyy said, again calling on Western allies to supply with additional air defense systems. Ukraine is waiting the delivery of U.S.-designed F-16 fighter jets. He said if countries could not supply the planes straight away, they could still fly them from neighboring NATO states and shoot down Russian missiles. So again, like I'm stating about Israel, where the U.S. came to their aid and backed them with their own fighter jets coming from I believe it was the Dwight D. Eisenhower aircraft carrier. Okay, they were they were using F-16s, F-35s to help Israel in this attack from Iran that was launched just about a month or two ago, right? So, yeah, he's stating here that they could just fly these F-16s from these NATO states, like some of these countries that I mentioned, Poland and some of the Baltic states, and shoot down the Russian missiles that are coming in, because that's obviously a big problem for them. We've been talking about this for a long time. I've reported this many different times, that Ukraine is always calling for air defenses, okay? Whatever way of protecting the skies from incoming missiles, that's what they need. They need Patriot missile systems. They need fighter jets that have capability to shoot down these missiles that are coming into the country, because they're just completely devastating their territory, and they need help, obviously. Ukraine was also negotiating with international partners to use their weapons to strike Russian military hardware at the border and further inside Russian territory, Zelenskyy said. So far, there is nothing positive, he said. On Tuesday, German Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock arrived in Kiev and called for more international support for Ukraine's air defenses. Germany is among several NATO allies that have ruled out sending ground troops to Ukraine after French President Emmanuel Macron said he would not rule it out. So that's why I was saying, if you weren't aware of that, the French president has come out multiple times and said that he would not rule out sending troops to Ukraine if their front line even were to break, okay? Even if that happened, which we've kind of seen that happen. I'm assuming the Ukrainians were able to restabilize that area, or at least fall back and set up new defensive positions, even if they lose ground. But we do know that Ukraine is not doing well right now. So I will cite this down below, and you guys can read the rest of it if you want to. Just wanted to share the important news there regarding this topic. So we've got a couple other things that we're going to be going over here that I want to show you, okay? We've got two posts here on X that we're going to go over. So this one's from Lord Bebo. Zelenskyy offered the West to not charge them for damages if intercepted missiles fall on something in Ukraine. So now NATO has nothing to be afraid of, but the West is afraid of an escalation and declined. Love the argument, folks. I'm not going to charge you for the damages you cause, Lamau. So this is obviously Lord Bebo's response, but this is what Zelenskyy was stating here. So he's saying that let's say if F-16 fighter jets come from, let's say the Baltic states, Estonia, for example, and they come to the aid of Ukraine whenever they come under attack by these missiles. Let's say they shoot down a incoming cruise missile, and all of a sudden that falls and, blows up an apartment building or something like that. He's saying that, let's say Estonia, for example, would not be held liable if there were to be injuries or people unfortunately being killed in this falling debris when these missiles are being shot down from the sky. So that's kind of what he's talking about here. So we got a 50-second clip that Lord Bebo here put out for us, and we're going to take a look at this, and then we'll talk about it after.
Одразу я передав сигнал польській стороні і іншим країнам, і Сполученим Штатам, я особисто лідерам цих країн все сказав. Ми готові підписати всі папери, що якщо буде збита російська ракета на території України, вони не будуть нести відповідальність, якщо вона впаде, щось підірветься тощо. Ми готові працювати. Знаходити будь-які механізми, дуже швидкі, юридичні. Питання бажань. Але всі кажуть слово, яке на всіх мовах звучить однаково. Всі бояться ескалації.
So there you go. You heard it directly from Volodymyr Zelenskyy, stating here that he basically wants NATO to come help, okay? Even if they were to launch F-16s from their own bases inside of NATO territory, he wants them to come and assist in these attacks whenever Russia is launching, multiple missiles and drones into their territory, because they obviously don't have the capability to shoot them all down. And they can only take so many of these hits, okay? Ukraine has been getting battered and battered for a very long time by multiple missile strikes on different parts of their territory, and their infrastructure is suffering right now, especially their energy sector. It's been completely hammered and destroyed for the most part. So that's going to make it very difficult for Ukraine to stay in this fight if they don't even have electricity to maintain their population of their country. So, yeah, that's why I wanted to show you that. So that obviously relates to the article we were reading on Al Jazeera, but that's him directly stating that from his mouth. So finally, I want to show you this here. This is another interview from, I believe, the New York Times. And this is from Jürgen Naudet. It says, I don't see NATO instructors in Ukraine teaching Ukraine soldiers except by word of mouth, says Zelenskyy. And other points of the president from the New York Times interview. The occupiers are standing in the nearest villages to the border, and from there they are attacking Ukraine, hiding behind the civilian population. The Russians know that we do not have permission to hit their territories in the Russian Federation with Western weapons and use this. Ukraine could see Russian troops massing across the border before their attack, but was powerless to strike them. Using long-range weapons, Ukraine will be able to effectively defend itself against the recent attack in northeast, which threatens Kharkiv. NATO must shoot down Russian missiles in flight over Ukraine without planes crossing Ukrainian airspaces will be purely defensive tactic. Ukraine does not need to prove anything to anyone about democracy after the victory. The president would like to spend some time with his family and dogs. So, real quick just about this. So I reported just about, 2 weeks ago, it was David Cameron from the UK, the foreign secretary, coming to the city of Kiev, the capital in Ukraine, and telling Vladimir Zelenskyy that if they wanted to use NATO-supplied weapons like these British Storm Shadow missiles that they're getting, the cruise missiles, that they could use them to strike NATO territory. Now, we haven't really seen that yet, as far as I know, other than ATACMS missiles striking close to the Russian border. But obviously, they did come out and state this. We haven't seen this yet. And he's saying here that they don't have the ability to strike Russian territory. And if they did, they would be able to stop attacks on the inside of Russia before they even come into the country, okay? Because they obviously launched their missiles and artillery, whatever it might be. Lots of it gets launched from the Russian territory targeting Ukraine, especially near the Kharkiv region. So he's saying if they had the ability to strike them in their territory, they could put a stop to many of the attacks that are happening inside of their territory, because obviously Russia's using it as a shield because they know that Ukraine cannot target inside their territory with Western supplied weapons. So let's just take a look at this minute, 19 seconds, and we'll talk about it.
Використовувати як захист. Як їм відповісти, коли вони б'ють по твоїх містах? І їх далекобійність така, тому що вони стоять в найближчих селах до кордону України з Росії, звідти б'ють, знаючи, що ми бити не будемо, знаючи, що вони прикриваються цивільним населенням, бо розташування їх зброї серед цивільного населення Російської Федерації. Але вони спокійно на це йдуть, розуміючи, що наші партнери не дають нам дозвіл, як ви сказали. І тут, коли ми говоримо про ATACMS, або ми говоримо про хаймарси, або ми говоримо про артилерійський снаряд, або ми говоримо про відповідні ракети, Storm Shadow, скальпи, тощо, ми не маємо дозволу бити по території Російської Федерації, по їх військовим розташуванням, штабам тощо. Це те саме, що ППО. Як нам захиститись від постійних ударів з території Росії? За 100 кілометрів до точки в Україні або до кордону України вони б'ють ракетами з російської території. Як нам захиститись?
Okay, so clearly what he's saying here is that Ukraine does not have the ability to completely defend themselves because what they need to be able to do, according to him, is strike Russian territory, hit their headquarters, hit their military bases inside of Russia that's allowing the Russians to strike Ukraine inside of their own territory. So because they don't have the ability to do that, because the West tells them you can't use these to strike inside Russian territory, he wants to be able to go after the source, and obviously the source is the head, the commanders, the people behind the front lines. He wants to be able to stop them from even initiating these attacks, and he can't do that without the West basically either getting involved in this war expanding, or the West needs to give him permission to strike targets inside of Russia. So clearly this is a major advantage for the Russians because they can set up shop, right on the border of Ukraine, launch attacks inside of Russian territory using all the equipment that they have, their rocket systems, their launch cruise missiles from their fighter bombers, whatever they want to do, and Ukraine can't do anything about it. And then on top of that, they don't even have any air defense for the most part. They're probably getting more of it now, I would assume, but clearly what we hear here from from Volodymyr Zelenskyy, even their foreign minister as well in Ukraine, stating that they need more Patriot missile systems, so more air defense. They don't have enough of this. So this is obviously a major problem for Zelenskyy. And I think at this point in the war, because this war has been dragging on so long, they've lost a lot of troops. They have clearly lost some land, some tactical advantages against Russia, and they're probably getting worried, okay? If Kharkiv falls, that's a major part of their economy, major city, and it would be a huge blow to the Ukrainians. So they don't want to lose Kharkiv, okay? And I don't think that would ever happen, to be honest, but it's very possible if the Russians break through in that area somehow, especially considering that they've got the advantage that Ukraine doesn't, okay? So this will get very interesting as time goes on, what happens up here in this area, but we're starting to see Ukraine call for more support from NATO directly to get involved in this war. Now, I'm going to be doing a video here pretty soon, too, talking about the fact that Russia's going to be doing more nuclear drills, okay? Doing more tactical nuke drills because of potential further involvement from the West and NATO countries getting involved in this war in Ukraine. So just wanted to give you this quick update and let you know what's going on with this. That's going to be it for this update, though. If you got something out of this update, please smash that like button. And also, if you enjoy my content, please consider subscribing down below. Hit the notification bell. That way YouTube can notify you. With that, I hope you all have a great day. Everybody take care and God bless. And we'll see you in the next one.